Hello, everyone. This is Being Boulder. I'm Rustin Hamilton here with Bronwyn Weaver. Bronwyn, yep. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, I am.
So we are to kind of get everyone up to speed here. Hopefully, this is not the first podcast of ours that you're listening to. If it is, welcome. We're glad that you are, and we would encourage you to maybe go back to our for a few of the earlier ones to get an idea of what we're doing. But briefly, Bronwyn, explain our publication. And I will just start with saying that Being Bolder, the podcast, is basically we're kind of sharing our adventures of making Boulder magazine. And so maybe give us the elevator pitch real quick on what Boulder magazine is, just in case people are, just learning about us.
Well, hi everybody, hi Rustin. I'm so excited to talk about Boulder Magazine. I always am. This has been a project that we've been working on for more than a year, and we've launched our first issue. It's a magazine that's about 80 pages long. It is a monthly magazine, and we've designed it to help support the teaching of earth science. I mean, in kind of in a nutshell. But we've made it for the whole family. We've filled it full of fun, interesting information that we think everybody would like to know about our earth, about nature, and and about our natural resources. There are those of us on our team that have been working in and around natural resource management for our whole careers, and we just have so much to tell and share. Not only are there stories that really are kind of the stories behind the stories that we think are going to be interesting, that maybe nobody's ever had a chance to share them before, but then also we think there are a lot of facts. There's a lot of real information that isn't really shared today. We've got so much catastrophe around everything outside, our climate, running out of stuff, the scarcity of things, and we see it from a very different lens. We see it no, we've got abundance of things. We've got really smart people that are figuring out solutions to make things more sustainable, to make things work more efficiently. And so lots to talk about in our magazine.
Yeah. And let's take a second and just talk about why a magazine.
Yeah.
And this is not a small thing. For anyone listening here, you and I have talked about this before. Magazines are probably can be associated with something that, what my parents read more often, or I used to read them more.
The
But I
pile of
don't.
National Geographics
Right.
that might be in a garage somewhere,
Yeah.
that were lovingly stored away because National Geographics, that's the image that I have of like a magazine that was really revered because it was beautiful and it gave you an experience
Right.
in its pages.
And you felt guilty for if you ever threw one away because,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is why so many people collected them. We literally
Mhm.
had at our house, the last house we lived in before this one. This goes back before, more than 10 years ago. But when we moved, we probably found about 300 issues of National Geographic. Some of them were ours. Some of them we adopted accidentally, probably.
Yeah.
And we had to come. I don't know if we should admit this on this podcast. We had to come to the conclusion that we probably weren't going to dig back into those, and some of them weren't in very good shape, and some of them were fine. And we, so other people took a few of them, and we had to get rid of the rest. I'll just put it to you that way.
Well,
But
those are hard
it's
I
hard to do
live
that.
yeah, I live in the house that I grew up in, and so I have a lot of, things in my household that I might not have, but I didn't have to move them. They were already here when we, bought the farm from the estate and we, moved our family back to the farm. So I have National Geographic magazines that go back to, the early 1960s. We've got quite a collection of them here. And so I grew up with um, not only those National Geographic magazines, but sometimes those magazines would have maps. Do you remember that? Like, they would have, poster-size maps folded up inside the National Geographics, and in fact, not just in the space next to me here in my office, I have a basket full of those old maps because they were just treasures to look through. And again, that magazine gave you a experience when you turned the pages. You were transported to Peru or to the rainforest or to, oh gosh, the um, a national park. It wasn't just one thing. You didn't know what was going to come next when you were turning the pages. And when we started Boulder Magazine, you asked to begin this you asked me earlier, why a magazine? And we really thought long and hard about how we were going to share these stories that we thought were really important to share, how we were going to be able to reach kids and young people. They teach earth science in schools, generally between fourth grade and seventh grade. So that's usually when you dig into geography and you learn a little bit more about the earth, about soils, about maybe geology. And that's where we wanted to step into that space because it's an older age group than coloring books or just workbooks. It's where you really can spark curiosity and interest that may lead to a career of working in natural resources, or at least for me, it would be, I think it's important just to put the word out there that, um, natural resources are for us to use and for us to use wisely, and it isn't a bad thing. That's one of the things that is, I'm really passionate about. So, anyway, we had this targeted age group that we're gonna try to get in front of, and I think you and I've talked about this before. That age group doesn't even know what a magazine is for the most part. I mean, like, maybe at the grocery store, you see, magazines in the checkout line, um, but likely, unless you are interested in gossip or recipes, that's not gonna be anything that would make anybody grab one and look in it. Um, and so, uh, in a lot of ways, I think our challenge is to introduce a magazine as a tool that comes right in your mailbox, that is gonna actually have somebody's name on it. So, if you're getting it for a gift or for a child, to be able to have their name on it, um, that's kinda cool. And the fact that our magazine is built, we thought long and hard about the cover stock, what kind of paper and treatment it would have. The fact that it has this kind of a binding means that it's gonna last for, maybe it's one kid that will peruse it, and then it'll hang out on the coffee table, literally, and a parent or an adult will look through it, and finally, when they get the next one in the mail, they'll take the one that's a month old now, and they'll put it on a shelf because maybe you'll wanna come back to it and discover what's the difference between moths and butterflies, or what were the minerals that made the different colors of fireworks. Again, it's like it is a book, but it's got a lot of different kinds of information, and so it's anyway, that's why we decided to go with a magazine, you know?
Yeah. And I look at I've told people, this is like book report kind of features. You know what I'm saying? If your kid needs to do a one-page book report on, on a dredge, something that probably they don't know what that is.
Yeah,
But they will learn about it in the publication, or a variety of
right.
other things, everything that we've talked about in there. They would have the information to do that. It would be that interesting, by the way. It's educational, it's beautiful, but it's also entertaining. When we
And
say
it's
8 to 80, I'll just say this. When we say 8 to 80, it means that an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old would be able to read this, understand it, um, but obviously everyone beyond that would as well. But it is not done in a childlike way in
Yeah.
terms of like being exclusive to just younger kids. So that's
Yeah.
why we think even adults will enjoy this because of the information, and
We
we like to
wanted to
think
make
it's written pretty well too.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're all those points are really good ones. We did not, we're trying to put up some guardrails for us as we're putting it together. And one of those guardrails is that we don't want it to be boring. We don't want it to be boring to a parent or a grandparent or the child or young person. We've got to have it designed well enough so that it looks interesting. And the other thing is that we don't want it to be babyish because hopefully this will lead into exploring and discovery, taking it to the next level. We have included, well, and we haven't talked about the fact that a magazine is just offline, unplugged, not digital. And we think that's everybody now, I think it's on everybody's radar to unplug and to read something that's in print and not to be scrolling or to have, I mean, there's hardly, even when you're in your, um, in your phone or on your computer, the amount of exposure you have to things just pinging you and getting your attention, and disturbing your train of thought. Um, I know that I personally am really working to have that unplugged time, but I still want to read and enjoy learning things. And it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to plow into a novel. A magazine is kind of that in between where you can enjoy learning about something, but you're not committed like you are to reading a whole book about it. Right. And so that's important. And yet, because we work, you and I are some of the older folks on our team. We work with a lot of young people. They want more. They want to have a bridge to digging in and being able to get more information online. And so we have QR codes sprinkled throughout the magazine that lead to more bonus content, that lead to learning more and activities and resources, so that you don't have to stay unplugged.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's important to note that we are not anti-technology.
yeah.
And we could do a whole episode, and we probably will, on all the technology that is used to create the
Yes.
handheld publication itself, building the graphics to the printing and everything in between. Um,
We have
but
to be
there is
very new school to be old school.
yeah, more than ever. But
Yeah.
there is something about that tactile experience of holding something, feeling the pages, like you said, the cover. It has kind of a grit to it that makes you want to hold it, and so forth. The pages are nice and thick compared to some other magazines. It's got substance to it, not only in the articles and so forth, but in the actual book itself, the magazine itself. And so we want kids to experience that and to get the feel of that. And, there's enough information out there that we know that, not just being offline and off technology, but to actually be able to embrace something, hold something, learn while doing that is powerful. And so we want to do all of those things. That's what Boulder Magazine really is about from an information standpoint and just from a physical standpoint of holding a magazine. And so we think that has value. We hope you guys do as well. And I was going to say, we like you mentioned earlier, if you have the publication and you want additional information and so forth, you can go to our website, and there's bonus material that is on there that supports the publication itself. um, we have QR codes throughout the magazine that help you get there and so forth. So it is, we're not anti-technology with this, but we want the magazine in and of itself to be only the magazine, and that's something that we are very set on.
Well, it's one of those things that I think that, um, we're also as we're creating this publication, we are very interested to hear what you think. So please
Yeah.
go to bouldermagazine.com. We have opportunities on our website to give us feedback, what you'd like to see more of. If you know of good stories, if you would like more activities or more things to be involved in, we would love to hear from you. So please go to bouldermagazine.com and let us hear from you. If you think all of this sounds great and maybe you've just heard about the magazine and you heard about this podcast, but you think this is a great idea, we'd love to have you subscribe. We're doing all of this for our subscribers, and it's really important. You are why we're doing it. So please subscribe, like this podcast, share it with a friend, and help us spread the word for Boulder Magazine. We really appreciate you very much, and thank you for joining us on our podcast. As we let you know what our priorities are as we're building out the magazine and getting it ready from issue to issue, we hope you will enjoy hearing the tales of being Boulder.
Absolutely. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bronwyn, we'll talk soon.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.